Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today we'll be talking about evolution. So let's get started. Now, evolution is of two types. One is called microevolution and the other is called macroevolution. So one is the survival of the fittest, while the other is the theory that humans came from apes. Evolution is accredited to Charles Darwin, who is the author of the book Origin of the Species, which is based on his travels to document his botanical discoveries. But as he was in the Galapagos Islands, he discovered similarities between finches. He discovered similarities between the bear and the whale and how they would catch and eat fish. And so later on in his life, it was claimed that he believed that the human species also developed from other animals. Now, let's look at the first type of evolution, which is the survival of the fittest. We don't have a problem with that. We see it every day. There's evidence of it in the animal kingdom, whether we're watching the National Geographic Channel or the Discovery Channel, where the weak die and the strong survive. But the other type of evolution that contends that man comes from apes, here we have a bit of an issue. Why? Because they haven't been able to tie the ape to the human being in anything tangible. They haven't been able to find tangible evidence. Now, at one point they claimed that it was the Neanderthal, and then it turned out that this was just a human that had giganticism. And then they contended that there was a jaw that they found, and that jaw they were able to form other bones from, and they extrapolated and said that she must be the missing link, because they ended up calling her Lucy, that's why I said she. And then after that they discovered that it was actually a small ape, and then they found another few bones and they named those bones Alex, and they contended that that was the missing link, and then they retracted their claim and said no, that wasn't the missing link. To this day they haven't been able to find that missing link that connects the ape to the human being, the Homo sapiens specifically. So what we say to them is لِكُلِّ حَادِثٍ حَدِيثٍ. Once you're able to find the evidence, then we can discuss it. Otherwise, you can't discuss something that hasn't been proven. Now the problem is that this is marketed as being true information. In schools today, it's being taught that this is true information, as though the theory of evolution when it comes to man developing or evolving from apes is actually 100% true. But as we said, science has not been able to prove it. Even anthropologists themselves contend that it hasn't been proven. Many of them disagree amongst themselves. Now, in order to understand why that is the case, let me give you a simple example. Other than there hasn't been that type of proof. One day I was watching the National Geographic Channel, and this one scientist had discovered the skull of a canine-like animal, and it was only the skull that he discovered. So he brought it back to the lab, he scanned it, they made a 3D model of it, and then he told the 3D modeler to basically create a spine for it. This is how he envisioned the spine to be. He asked him, well, how long should the tail be? He said, I don't know, make it short. He said to him, well, how long should the legs be? He said, I think they should be short and stubby and powerful because he has a big head just like a pit bull. He then asked him, well, what about his fur? Should it have stripes? What color should it be? Should it be long? Should it be short? He said, well, make it short and put some stripes on it. It was completely unscientific. He wasn't actually able to prove any of this stuff. He didn't have the genetic code to be able to prove that this animal had short hair, or what color the hair was, or whether it had stripes, or whether its tail was short or long. This was all speculation. And this is extremely unscientific. And this is really part of the problem when it comes to this issue of the claim of that man came from ape. Also, there are others who say, well, the Human Genome Project, it proves that genetically speaking, we are very similar to apes, 99% similar to apes, and therefore they must be our ancestors. Well, the answer to this question is very simple. You see, a fruit fly shares its genetic code with us too. We are similar to a fruit fly in genetic code by 37% at least. What does that mean? Does that mean that our ancestor is also a fruit fly? No. You see, to understand genetics, genetics is basically like a program. Okay? So a programmer, what they'll do is they will program a base code. That foundational code they're going to build on. Right? So if they, for example, today you hire a programmer, you tell him, I want you to program this application for me. He'll bring a base program for an application, and then he'll build on it. The same applies to our genetic code. So all of the animals that have eyes, within their genetic code, in their DNA, they have an eye code. And they have an ear code. And they have a tail code. And they have a leg code. And they have an arm or limb code, right? The legs could be arms and limbs. So every animal that has those specific characteristics will have that code within their genes. Now, if they are an insect, then their code for their legs will reflect how their legs look in reality. That they have 6 legs in number, while humans only have 2 legs, right? That they their legs will have sections and they'll be a certain way. That they have an eye gene, just like we have an eye gene, but they have multiple eyes, for example, while we only have 2 pairs of eyes, or 1 pair of eyes, I should say, right? So it doesn't mean then that our ancestors are fruit flies, just as much as it doesn't mean that apes are our ancestors also. Okay, so the genetic code doesn't prove then ancestry. It just proves that we had one creator, one programmer. So inshallah, in upcoming clips, we'll talk about more interesting topics as well. Until then, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.